This is a Ramana Maharshi clip, a talk by Ramana Maharshi with comments by Richard Clarke. This is a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. I'm Richard. Welcome. I'm reviewing and commenting on the book Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Today is Talk 151. The American gentleman is a little hard of hearing. Being accustomed to be self-reliant from his youth, he naturally feels worried on account of his hearing becoming defective. Maharshi, you were not self-reliant, you were ego-reliant. It is good that ego-reliance is banished and that you become truly self-reliant. Again, Bhagavan said, there is no cause for worry. Subjugation of the senses is a necessary preliminary for self-realization. One sense is subdued for you by God Himself. So much the better. The questioner said that he appreciated the humor, but that still his self-respect suffered. Maharshi, the self is only one. Do you feel hurt if you blame yourself or scorn yourself for your errors? If you hold to the self, there is no second person to scorn you. When you see the world, you have lost hold of the self. On the contrary, hold the self, and the world will not appear. In this dialogue, we find an exchange that delves into the concept of self-reliance, ego, the nature of the self, and the world. The American gentleman, grasping with his hearing loss and the worry it brings, is addressed by Ramana Maharshi. Ramana says that the gentleman was not truly self-reliant, but rather was ego-reliant. This subtle yet crucial distinction implies that the source of the worry lies in the ego, and the path to true self-reliance involves transcending this ego. The ego waxes and wanes, so instead rely on what does not, yourself. By pointing this out, Ramana is guiding him towards a deeper understanding of the self. The sage then provides reassurance by stating that the subjugation of the senses is a necessary step towards self-realization. Here he introduces a spiritual perspective, suggesting that the challenges faced by the gentleman, including his hearing impairment, are part of a divine process. The notion that God Himself has subdued one of the senses for him is presented as a positive development on the path to self-realization. However, the American gentleman expresses that despite understanding the humor in Ramana's words, his self-respect is still suffering. In response, Ramana imparts a profound insight into the nature of the self. He emphasizes the oneness of the self, that when you hold to the self, there is no one else, no second person to scorn or blame you. This points to the idea that true self-reliance involves transcending the dualities of the egoic mind. Ramana further says that the loss of connection with the self is what leads to feelings of hurt and self-scorn. In contrast, if you firmly hold to the self, the world and its judgments lose their impact. The crux of the teaching lies in the understanding that by anchoring oneself in the unchanging and singular nature of the self, the ephemeral and dualistic aspects of the world cease to disturb your inner equilibrium. Finally, Ramana says, when you see the world, you have lost hold of the self. On the contrary, hold the self, and the world will not appear. Either your mind is turned to the variety of the changing world, or turned within to the ever-present existence and consciousness which you are. One brings agitation and turmoil, the other brings peace. Choose peace. This dialogue is a guide towards true self-reliance and the realization of the unchanging self beyond the transient ego. So inquire, know yourself, and be always free and at peace. These videos help bring Ramana Maharshi's teachings into your direct experience. Subscribe now